Find one woman, love her, have kids with her, and build your family. Because having kids by multiple women can destroy your life. I've been having 3 out of my 5 trying to destroy my life since the beginning of time. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I pay millions in child support and still don't see my kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you this to tell you to be smarter, bro. Don't make the same mistakes I made. Find you one woman, love her, and have kids by her. Because having kids by multiple women can destroy your life, bro. Because a bitter baby mama ruins black men just as much as the police or just as much as anybody, okay? They won't say that. And, of course, women won't say that because it's majority of them. But, fellas, we got to be smarter, okay? We got to be smarter. I don't have problems with my kids' mothers unless they done ran out of money. And it's just facts, bro. It's just facts. But be smarter. Make a better decision. Don't be running around willy-nilly like I was doing and all that. And, try to find your relationship and stay in that one, bro, because I'm telling you, you have a life of pain and misery and unnecessary stress, and it ain't nothing you doing. It's the bitterness of another person, okay? So continue to love your kids and do whatever. Even if you do have kids, love them just as you were in a great relationship with their mom. But if you don't have kids, bro, take your time. Find you one woman, settle down and have kids and do it the right way. Because I'm telling you, the quickest way and the fastest way for a demise of a black man, especially a successful black man, is a bitter black woman. Truth hurts. You know what I'm saying? Brothers that's out here that ain't getting in trouble, that ain't selling drugs, what's ruining their lives? Opportunity and bitter black women. And that's just the truth. If you ain't doing nothing wrong, you ain't dealing with the police. So what else is ruining you? Opportunity and bitter black women. It's just the truth. I had to share this with my youngsters out there, man. Don't be nutting off and everything like I did. You know what I'm saying? I take full responsibility. I don't regret my kids, but I take full responsibility for the situations and the drama that I've had all my life from laying down with these women. I regret it, but I take full responsibility. Be smarter than Stack 5. I made all the mistakes so y'all won't have to. So my 2 sons won't have to.
Hello, beautiful people. If this is your first time visiting my channel, thank you and welcome. My name is Miss Charlotte, and I love to make you think, laugh, and overall, I want you to be happy. And how I do that is I talk about our issues. The good, the bad, the crazy, the insane, the ones we talk about each other all the time, mostly behind each other's back, because we all have issues. How we deal with our issues, that is truly the difference. And on Saturdays, Sexy Saturdays, we talk about our issues on the topics of love, sex, and relationships. And in this episode, I wanted to share raw reactions to Mr. Jackson's address. Let's just call it that. He said what he needed to say, and people are going to react to it. I also reacted to it. I actually saw this video on another blogger's YouTube channel, and I had a comment, and my comment generated other people to comment under me. And I decided, okay, I'm going to talk about this issue, but I have a surprise for you. It's not just going to be me and my perspective. I have opened up the platform, and I've invited 2 special guests. We're going to have Makkah from Atlanta and Isabella from New York. So we're going to talk about this situation, but we're also going to talk about how has it been for your dating and your sex life in this quarantine time during this pandemic. How has your sex life been? How has your dating life been since this quarantine? And what do you think is going to look like afterwards? Are we going to always have to wear a mask? And if we do, what do you think and how do you think it's going to affect our dating or love life? So please share what you think in the comment, but grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea or a cocktail and get ready to enjoy a very raw, unfiltered, honest, and mature conversation. Let's get started. All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining me for Sexy Saturdays. We have Makkah and we have Isabella, and I just showed them the video that I just showed you all, and I wanted to get your raw reactions. So who wants to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to be the guinea pig for like first person stuff. So I'm just like getting used to it in any situation nobody wants. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'll bite the bullet. Yeah. So this gentleman was talking about the demise of Black men being about lack of opportunity and bitter Black women. And he was talking about having children with 5 different women, which one of the first thoughts I had was, that's a lot of women to have children with, and automatically I think that could be really complicated. First of all, like,
Yeah.
and when he was talking about bitter Black woman, which just I think like feeds into like the angry Black woman trope and stereotype. I also don't know. I'm also trying to be mindful of any sort of any assumption of speculation that I could have about things too. I think that's important to have discernment in that way. And I don't know, like, what is this person's perspective of the difference between like a bitter white woman and a bitter Black woman? You know, I don't know what that looks like, and why is it bitter Black women being the demise for him and not bitter white women. But I don't know his experience with white women too. So that's the part of speculation that I don't want to make assumptions of.
Okay, I'm going to fill you in on something, but I just wanted to get the raw reaction first.
Yeah. So I think five women to have children with is doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. That's like really complicated.
Right.
So just like hands up, really complicated. It's good that he said like that he owns what he did. And like he takes responsibility for that, but I know that I as a woman just wouldn't want to have 5 different children from 5 different guys like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Makkah, what was your original raw reaction? I just want to get raw reactions first before we really like pick it apart.
Okay. Raw reaction. Raw reaction is I agree, and I do agree with some of your aspects, Isabel. I agree with the idea that a bitter Black woman can be a difficult, having kids with bitter Black women, and I'll definitely use those air quotes continuously, but it's definitely, I'm sure it's a challenging experience. Being a Black woman myself, and being raised by Black women and having communities of Black women, I understand what it looks like when a Black woman has undergone a lot of struggle, and just had a lot of challenges, as what Black women face on a daily basis. And so as a result, it can build up a callus. It can make you a little tough, the interior and exterior. I do disagree with the idea that a bitter Black woman is the worst thing that can happen to a Black man. A bitter woman, period, a bitter person, period. We see what bitterness in this country is, it can have, what type of effect it can have on human beings, period. And so bitterness overall from anyone, any race, any gender towards another individual is going to be extremely intense. So the last thing I will say in regards to that though is being a bitter, or having I do appreciate the fact that he took ownership for everything that he's been through. But at the end of the day, I will say that the most gruesome aspect of any of it is the fact that African-American women and African-American men not being able to meet eye to eye, being on different terms, and even attacking each other in any way, shape, or form is the worst thing that I have, the worst experience here for me. It's not a bitter Black woman, it's the fact that African-Americans are on such different pages, male and female. The Black family has been in turmoil since slavery. And so it's just unfortunate to imagine, this man has 5 different women, child court. You see the families, I've seen the families, my family, my mother, my dad sitting on one bench, I'm on the other. It's unfortunate to see, period. And so that's probably the worst aspect of it for me. Not a bitter Black woman and attacking him, but just the fact that Black people aren't on the same page, male, female, the home, the family is in turmoil.
So, Isabella, the reason why I really wanted to have you on here as a guest is because I just want to know, as a white woman, do you even know that this exists within the Black community, where there's this Black man, you know, who doesn't appreciate or like a Black woman? He's going to date outside of his race because he says he hates Black women. He doesn't like Black women. Black women are, you know, dramatic, they're bitter. And so they seek love outside of the race. Do you even know about this? Do you even care about this? Do you have to deal with any of this? And have you dated outside your race?
Okay. I'll try and remember all of the questions that you asked.
Okay. Well, the first one is
The awareness
about
of,
that. Are you
yeah.
aware of the divide in the Black community with Black love, Black men versus Black women? Do you even know about that whole thing?
To know about it for me means that I'm watching things or reading things that talk about it and speak on it. The Black men that I know, I haven't had a personal conversation with them in particular about perhaps their own relationship with other Black women in a negative way, where the conversation is about them dating outside of their race because of that. I've never had that conversation with any of my Black male friends. So
Were you ever aware of this?
aware of it, I would,
Like,
I guess not in the way that I'm learning right now. I think
okay.
the things that I've had seen or read, it can feel clear that there is something going on that's not pleasant for either. But it's not something that I am super immersed in.
All right. And then the second question is, in your own culture, in your own race, does that exist in yours? Is your male counterpart, is there, you know, white men that say, I don't want to date a white woman because she's X, Y, and Z. I'm only going to date outside, whether it be an Asian woman or a Black woman. Is that relevant, or does it even exist in your world?
In my world, no. I don't personally know anybody or have had a conversation specifically with any white guy that is saying, I can't deal with white women anymore, so I'm going to have to date outside of the race. So I have not had that conversation with anybody. I personally don't know anybody that feels that way who have shared it with me. You know, maybe there's somebody that I know that does feel that way, but I don't know. So,
and do you date
to my experience? No, I have not.
And have
had
you
that particular?
Have you ever dated outside your race?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Like dating, not like this person was my partner or my boyfriend.
But just dating?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Makkah, what do you think about hearing what she just had to say, that, you know, it doesn't even really exist in her world? It's just something that exists, I guess, in ours. Like, this is something when we think about dating, when we think about love, this is something that hangs over us. And so how do you feel hearing that Isabella doesn't even have to deal with that?
I feel like I'm not surprised, because this is an issue for people of color, because I feel like the way that society has established itself, people of Caucasian race and descendancy are depicted as being at the top of the totem pole. So the goal is to be white is right, get to the top that way. You know, you need to change your appearance, change the way you talk, change your hair, whatever, in order to get to that standard, because the standard, the threshold is being white. Especially as a African-American woman, truly we're at the bottom of the totem pole. So of course for us, it's like, that's the goal. That's why an African-American man can strive to, once they get money and once they establish themselves, they strive to get a woman, a white woman, or a woman racially ambiguous, or just something different. And not all, but many. And we've seen that in all types of different ways. So I'm not surprised. It's a person of color issue. And that's just that.
For me, it cracks me up that Black men are looking for love with other races out of hate for their own race. So I kind of question their ability to love in general, because love should be about your preference and what you like. You shouldn't have to pick love based on how you feel, negatively about someone else. And that's what always kind of gets me. It's like, okay, but do you really love this woman, or is it all about rebellion? What is it really about? Because you should just be able to love whoever, regardless of their color, but not specifically because you hate your own race or any race for that matter. So that was something that I want us to talk about too. And then the other thing that I also thought about is when these men go out publicly to make it a public thing, I wonder what their relationship is like with their Black mother. So I had a conversation with a friend. He's a male, friend, and he's a hometown friend. He's still in a small town, Buffalo. So I asked him because I thought this was very interesting. When you ask someone that lives in a big city, they tend to have, a more open-minded review. And not to say that my friend isn't open-minded. It's just that because I come from a small town, I just wanted to just see what another person from my hometown, a male, would think of it. And he said something to me that was really eye-opening about the whole way Black men and Black women kind of get where they're going. So I'll just share what he said with me. He said that, when you grow up as a Black man and you have a Black mother, especially if you have a single Black mother, and Isabel, I don't think you've ever had this experience. You can chime in if you do. But for the most part in the Black community, Black women have to be the mother and the father too many times. And so therefore she has to be strong and she has to discipline the best way that she can. And sometimes the way she discipline is very demasculating and is very harsh. And she doesn't really mean it, but it's her best way to try to control. So when she's talking to her children, it may be in a very demeaning way. Like, you gonna do what I say? Who you think you talking to? MF this, or, it's a very harsh way. And as a young guy growing up, if all you see is your mother, who is your quote unquote role model as a Black woman, and if all you see is her yelling at you, screaming at you, making you feel bad, making you feel less than a man, it kind of is understandable how when they get out in the world, they just want to run away from that as far as they can. And it is what it is. So I saw this video on another blogger's YouTube and I commented on it. And that was one of the questions. I was like, I wonder how the mothers feel about this. And a lot of people started commenting through my comment, and it became a nice thread. And one lady said that her mom knows about her two brothers. They date outside of their race and they publicly say they don't like Black women. And the mother has nothing to say. And I thought that was shocking. I was like, maybe she doesn't have anything to say, but I'm sure she thinks about it. But going back to what my friend said, it made me also even think of me as a child and growing up with my single mother, how she did used to talk to us. And how it is for a woman, if you grow up with a mother like this, you tend to pick up her bad habits as well. So how your mother talks to you, you may talk to your lover that way, not even realizing the damage that you're doing because you were so used to this and raised like this. So yeah, the women may be unintentionally and not even aware that they're talking to their Black men the way that their mom talked to them. So it can be very, the communication with Black women can be harsher because it was kind of brought in and instilled in us. We were raised like that. So Isabella, do you, as you can hear what I'm saying, is that something that you had to deal with? And can you understand where I'm coming from? Because I understood what he said at that moment. A light bulb came in my head and I was like, wow. And it made me realize that it's two effects. When my mother was like that, I had the opposite. I was like, I'm never going to talk to anyone like that. But some people don't have that opposite. Some people pick up what they learn and they continue to pass the baton, if you will. So what are your thoughts on that? And then Makkah, I will come back to you and find out what your thoughts is.
I did not grow up with a single parent, but my parents did divorce when I was younger, and my father struggled with alcoholism and bipolar. So his style of communication could be very violent with the way that he would talk to me, and my mother was a bit more passive, or just wasn't as emotionally present. So for me personally, if any guy communicates in a way where where he raises his voice a lot, or his communication style is one that feels very triggering to me, I have a hard boundary that comes up. And I do my best to express to that person that I can't communicate with you if you're going to, I can't be in this space with you if you're going to talk to me like that. So, and the times that my communication style has definitely improved because it's something that has been massively important for me in terms of my own reparenting and my own healing, which I think at large in our society right now is more popular or more sort of mainstream self-care than it was for previous generations. So I think our generation right now is thinking about those things more than previous generations were, just as a side thing.
Thinking about the communication, how you talk to your kids.
Yes. Or looking back at the way that you were raised and becoming self-aware in a way where you can say, this was abusive language, or, it's like, or this was a traumatic thing for me, or a series of traumatic things over a period of time. And I don't want to engage in other people in the way that I've been taught. That's my experience.
Okay, interesting. So you feel like the younger generation is taking more notice and being more self-aware in general.
Yeah, I think so, because I can look at my parents and they've never had a conversation with me about self-care or mindfulness, or how do we learn how to take care of our person in times when we really need it. But I know I'm tangenting off a little bit. So I haven't had
sorry to cut you off, but getting back to what I said with the advice that he gave me, can you see that? Do you think that is what's happening, the communication with the black male and the black female? Do you believe that that's probably what could be happening?
When I hear you talk about what he said, I think for me it's like, okay, I can see how someone could be triggered in this way. And then the part of me also thinks, just like there's internalized misogyny, is there internalized racism that's going on from, the patriarchal, white capitalist umbrella that we all live under and have been infected by, some more than others, obviously. And is right. And I don't want to get into like speculation or making assumptions about, something that I could never experience because I'm not a person of color.
Right.
So I don't do that.
Okay.
Like I'm it's like, you can say, well, if I was this person and I was in that situation, maybe I would do that. And I think that's sort of bullshit in the sense of like, well, I never will be. And that was never experienced that I can have. So how much can I actually speak to that? It's like getting to a place of like, okay, just shut up and listen. Just shut up and like listen to what's going on. So
we're gonna listen.
I can understand from my own experience in terms of wanting the opposite of what I've been raised in because that was very hurtful. But I think having a mindful examination of it, and I think that for me, it just makes me want to think about, okay, what are all the ways that I can be self-aware where I'm not projecting onto a new person, a new situation, a completely new thing. Like, that man is not my father. This situation is not my father. The way I'm being triggered is not my dad yelling at me. So that means I need to do the work in terms of my relationship to the thing that's triggering me. And I also want to be able to feel that I can trust this person to be able to communicate with them safely and honestly. I think having connection in that way is important too. So not projecting my old shit onto a new person, into a new situation, I think is important.
That's a valid point. Makkah, what do you think about what my friend said? Did that wake up anything for you? Did you grow up in a single parent home, or were you blessed to have a father at home? And how did your mom talk to you? And do you think that is a valid point?
I think it's what your friend said was definitely eye-opening for me. I appreciate you asking that question of him because it did shed some light for me on how a Black man can develop that kind of idea, that perception of Black women, and want to run away from, that experience because they think that that's what Black women are. And as a child, you can't really evaluate. My mom is really going through things, and society is putting this pressure on her, and the Black family is broken. Therefore, this is what she feels like she has to do. It's just, this is an angry Black woman. I don't like angry Black women. I'm going to find something else. And on top of the fact that particularly white women are depicted as the calm, the docile, the giving, the nurturing, whereas we as Black women are hard and rough and tough. So you got the Black woman, she's the ride or die. But when you get to the top, you get you a white woman so that you can take an easy coast drive and have someone who's not going to badger you and all that. So I think it's definitely eye-opening. I appreciate that. I was raised in a single parent household. My parents divorced when I was 7. My father has still been a part of my life off and on. My mother did not speak to me in those particular kinds of ways. It was a really big thing for her. She wasn't spoken to in that particular kind of way either. So it's been a thing where the legacy that's been passed down with my family, my mother and grandmother, was to change those types of just cycles, because it has been in other parts of my family. I've seen it, cousins and aunts and things like that. So I didn't have that experience of being talked to like that by my mother. My mother was unfortunately depicted as and seen as, and potentially might be a little bit, in a sense, bitter through the experiences that she went through with my father. And so I am familiar with that, and I can imagine, though my mother didn't speak to, she never cursed at me. Look, I never even got a spanking. So, I mean, I'm on some different stuff.
Yeah, you had a different mother than mine.
You hear me, right? Look, because I call it a spanking. Look, people who got it was a whooping. So I know the difference. I get
And I'm like,
look here. So it's a whole different thing. Like, there's a lot of different things that went on with me. But I think it's a really interesting perspective, and I can understand, and I do appreciate, Isabella, you not trying to, not really adding too much to a situation that, like you say, you don't know about. Although I do respect your situation in growing up. You experienced some, and you could definitely find alignments with what Black families, Black children have experienced. Bipolar disorder, mental health is a major issue in the Black community. And so for you to have gone through that, we can definitely connect on that for sure. But I appreciate you, just being open to listening to that. That's deep. But yeah, so I love his perspective, and I appreciate it. I've never heard it. I never heard that before from a Black male. And so it's really eye-opening.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question, but I had one more thought that I wanted to share with both you ladies and get your perspective on this. When men publicly go out and really try their best to make Black women feel like they are less than, I think it was Charles Barkley who said that Black women weren't clean. And that was one of the reasons he didn't date Black women. And there's been others, you know, the bitter, the drama, they have their reasons as to why they don't like. But it's so ironic to me that during slavery, the Black woman, the Black slave, was desired so much by the slave owners, the white man, that he cheated on his white queen who was in the house.
Mhm.
He would run and maybe even force himself on a Black slave female. Sometimes they fell in love with them and they had affairs with their slaves. But the Black woman in all of her fullness, because we got to keep it real, the slave women, you know, the slave female did not look like the females that we have today. They were in all of their beautiful essence with their big nose, their big lips, their kinky hair. There was no lashes, there was no makeup, there was no any of that. And their full breasts and their full hips and their full butts and everything about the Black woman was in its natural state. And they were highly desired to the point that white men raped them and cheated on their white queen. So it's so ironic to me how we're here now that our own don't even like us, and not to say all of them. And this is the other thing that my friend said, and he had me cracking up. And the reason why this came out, there is a white and Black couple. He's a football player and he has a Black wife. And so there's a trend on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but there's a trend of interracial couples where there are a lot of white men who are marrying Black women. And so they're getting flack by Black men saying you can't date our women, but they're okay with the Black men dating outside their race. So it's kind of like, okay, so some Black men who don't like Black women don't want Black women, but don't want Black women to be happy. So you don't want us to be happy at all. You don't want to love us, and you don't want nobody else to love us? Like, it's craziness. So I shared that with my friend, and he said, you know, what bothers him the most is he says, these Black women who think brothers ain't checking for them, there are brothers checking for them, but it may not be the brother that they're checking for. So he doesn't like that a lot of women say, oh, the Black man ain't checking for me, so I'm dating outside of my race. When what it is he feels like the Black man has to be a successful Black man. He has to have so much money. He has to have cars. He has to have clothes. If that Black man is checking for you, then that's validated. But if it's just a nice, you know, Black guy, a regular Black guy, an average 9 to 5 working Black guy, he says Black women aren't checking for them, but never say that they're not being checked, because there's some Black man, some nice Black man that wants them, but they may not be checking for them. So I thought that point was pretty valid too. But like I also said to him is, you know, it's not fair to say Black women who want a successful man or an attractive man that when she doesn't like a nice man. Okay, nice is fine, but if you're not attracted to the nice man, it is what it is. Just like nice women, they may not be attractive, and just because she's nice doesn't mean that who she likes, they're supposed to like them. So I had to kind of go back and forth with him, but his point was valid, that there are people checking for us, but maybe we're not checking for them. And so that is kind of like crazy. So what do you guys think about what I just said? I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll move on to the next question. So, Makkah, you go.
I think that it was definitely interesting. And so to be clear, it's African-American men not wanting African-American women to date outside of the race, but they are dating outside. I mean, you know, that's like, it definitely doesn't make any sense. It's just flat out like, I don't know who you think you're talking to, because what are you telling me? Like, and I do appreciate the fact that your friend emphasized that there are Black men checking, and I've always believed that. So I have never dated outside of my race. Let me clarify that. Never had an interest, and I just never felt attracted to anyone except a Black man. I mean, they're cute white guys and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, Johnny Depp and them got it. But still, it's not like I ain't trying to make no boobs or nothing like that, because I've always appreciated Black men in a certain way. Even with my father not always being around, and with him being someone who I absolutely despised at one point, I still appreciated Black men. And I always felt loved by them. Even if all of them didn't want me, I felt like there was always goodness there from African-American men. So I think it's interesting that that would even be something that, you know, Black men could expect or could even put out there, or demand, or even give an opinion about. Because in reality, like, you should love who you love. And like you said earlier, I support that.
What do you think
But
about
to,
owner, you know, desiring the African female slave in all her fullness? What do you think about that? Like, how ironic.
absolutely. Yeah, I think, and I'm with you. Like, I've been well aware of, you know, many of us are well aware of the fact that slave owners would have affairs and sleep with and want to be in even committed relationships with their slaves. And it's because Black women are beautiful, and they always have been. And the idea, of course, during slavery was just to capitalize off of Black people, to use them as a tool, but it still didn't take away from our beauty and our just excellence. And even with Black men, I mean, it was a matter of having to conquer because of, out of fear of being conquered. Although Black people don't have a reputation, a legacy, or anything of trying to conquer anything or anybody else. That's always been done to us. But Black African-American Blackness has just always been amazing and phenomenal. And so I absolutely am not, you know, I mean, I'm well aware of it. I think that it's because we are amazing. We always have been. And, you know, you just couldn't even strip us of that even then. I mean, our curves and our colors and our different textures of hair and our different skin tones, everything. It's always been something that has been attractive to all different races. And being being Black is the thing to be, truly. And you see it in different races where they're getting their lips pumped and they're getting their hair curled and everybody's getting locks. And it's just, but at the same time, it's unfortunate, which is the last thing I'll say, that, you know, it's this kind of undertone idea that, you know, you shouldn't be yourself, you shouldn't be so Black, or you should perm your hair. And so in the midst of us trying to change ourselves and adapt to that new concept, you look up and you see white people with locks, or, you know, you see them getting their lips pumped, you know, plumped up. Kylie Jenner, like, what, you know? So it's just always been a, you know, kind of double agenda going on. But
Yeah,
it's,
I definitely want to speak to that, what she just said. Isabella, I saw you shaking your head. What do you definitely have something to say on that? So
I don't even know if I can say the F word.
Yeah, no, say, talk. It's all, to me, Sexy Saturdays, there is no right or wrong answer. It's different perspectives, and that's what I'm welcoming. So please, I saw you shaking your head. What's on your mind?
It's really an issue. Like the black fishing that has just like swept fucking. You see it on TikTok with like teens all the time. Yeah, the Kylie Jenners, the Kardashians, the Kardashians in particular have really profited off of the like Black women features and have just created $1 billion businesses off of it, you know, and
we can't.
And it's fucked up to the highest degree is the fuckery of it, and I don't think there's this. I think maybe there has been some conversation about it, not a lot actually, not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you look at pictures of them before all of their plastic surgery, and then now, there's a starking difference. There's like they look like different people, obviously.
So what do you think is so? You know, I know Micah knows this, but what do you think for Black women to not see this, to not see how beautiful they are when people are spending millions of dollars to change their look, to alter their look, to look like us, what we have naturally, but we still some of us, too many of us, still won't even accept our own beauty. We will go and get a weave. We will go and get blue eyes. We still think white is right when we have so much proof that we are enough, that we have enough. And there's just still so many that just cannot accept it. So how on earth, if you can see it, how is it that too many of us can't see it? Some of my beautiful Black female, they can't see it and they still are brainwashed. And I just don't know what to tell them. I just don't know. It's so funny that you can see it, but what can you say, or can you say anything? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really understanding that, and it's very complex, and it's been going on for such a long time. You know, the way that media has put white women, you know, at the top of something to attain, or to be in relationship with, and the years and years and years and years and years of using and appropriating Black culture within popular culture, right? You know, that whole Miley Cyrus had a phase of that, and I think having reverence, appreciation, love, I think also comes from my time being a stripper too, for a little bit.
Okay.
And also in corporate strip world, which is different than sort of like mom and pop sort of titty bar stuff, where a lot of the corporate environments require wigs for Black women, or require that they have a certain aesthetic and hair, which is inherently white. You know, the long, slick, straight thing, and see the ways that Black women like just dress and adorn themselves and be, and it's just for me, and I'm definitely can't speak to all white women, and I won't speak to all white women, that I'm their experience and them are mine. But it's fucking really taking a step fucking back and just like being in the shit of all the stuff that has exploded within the past, you know, number of years, and just like being and watching and like, you know, really truly wanting to be an ally. And I know that word is used a lot and is used by people who aren't doing allyship work, and using it as a bite word. And yeah, it's like seeing the way that white women are blackfishing and using the features of Black women and putting it on themselves, and saying, okay, well, so many women are trying to look like this, but we're also not going to talk about it either. And you don't want to talk about it, white woman? Okay, well, why don't we talk about it? You know, it's like real, like what is that? Like, let's just fucking talk about it. Like, you understand what's going on, right?
I'm gonna.
And it's like, why?
Micah is shaking her head. What you want to chime in with? I see you shaking your head. Like.
It's like, wanting to talk to the white women and be like, well, what's going on? And we can also even go so far as to say, when was the moment where like big asses started to become a thing? Because it wasn't for a while.
For a long time.
It was not for a while. Like, I had that thought the other day. I was like doing stuff for my butt, and I was like, okay, when did big asses were like totally in the like everybody's got to have a fat ass, or like exactly. We're not like, it was like now curves are like suddenly like really 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 in, and it's like what was the, I mean, if you look at the aesthetic or like even pop culture around like beauty trends, you know, like what are the certain sort of moments, like who are the people that sort of brought things in, you know, that made people want to be like them, you know, and like when did Kim Kardashian decide that she wanted to have a big fucking ass?
Exactly.
You know, like when did she decide to do that? When did Kylie Jenner decide to do that? Right? And these are Armenian women. They're not Black women.
Because
they're Armenian women. They're not Black women.
They noticed how desirable it was in the Black community because Black men loved it. As a Black woman, I have no ass at all. I have a flat ass, or some people may say it's a little booty. So growing up, you know, when it was popular to have a flat ass with your Jordache and your, you know, Sassoon jeans and all of that, you had a flat ass. That was the thing. And I was back in the day, I was like, yes, because I don't have no ass. Then when the trend started, I was like, oh, Lord, I got the, woo. It's gonna be bad for me because I'm a sister, and it's like a sister don't have no ass. Like, So then when I see white girls with bigger ass than me, I really be like, "Ooh, you stole my ancestry. What is going on?" I'd be upset. So, Micah, what are you happy? I saw you were shaking your head. So, what did you want to say?
So yeah, no, I mean, like, first,
Shaking your head mostly when she was saying that we should have a conversation with white women, but I was also like, why is it that Black women still are brainwashed? How come they can't see what Isabella sees? If Isabella can see it, how come our own can't see it and start embracing their beauty again? If they can't see that people are spending millions of dollars to look just like them, but they still don't want to love themselves. The self-love and the self-hate. What do you want to say about that?
well, I want to say two things. First and foremost, I do want to say that I do see where Black women these days, like our generation now, and I'm 28, so our generation is, and the one beneath me, like Black power, you know, Black girls rock, you know, Black women are, you know, we're picking up on it, and we are starting to empower one another, which I love and support wholeheartedly, and it's about time. I think it's also because of the fact that we do see what Isabella sees. We see Kim Kardashian and Kylie and them, they dating, you know, our guys. They, you know, it's everywhere. You see it in magazines when you open it, TV shows and everything. So we see it. And I think we're making great strides in supporting it. We see little Black girls rocking the fros and believing in themselves and loving what they are and knowing brown skin means beauty. But on the side of that, the reason why I would say that we haven't been able to fully connect with it, we can't just abolish the idea that, you know, we might need to perm our hair, our skin might be too dark. It is because society won't allow it. I mean, we can believe in ourselves all we want, but if we have the powers that be, which don't look like us, and they don't, those who run media, we don't have a seat at those tables. So if they continue to push this agenda that Black, too dark, monkeys on t-shirts, monkey voice shirt, like if we see that and that keeps on being perpetrated and represented, many of us won't be able to fully connect with the idea that we can identify with ourselves and our race and our people. And we are going to keep trying to perm our hair because, there's, you know, we see laws and different types of regulations that are being put out that say that if your hair is of a certain type, you can be fired from your job.
Yes.
All right, well, I can believe in my beauty all I want,
but they put into law that you can't do that. California, I'm in California, so they had to, but it's crazy that has to be a law. There has to be a law in 2020.
But that's why, because it's not okay for us to do. And they're always going to be, racism is always going to be a thing. So, you know, for those who believe that racism can be ended, you're going to be holding your breath for a while.
You can't, because it's taught. As long as somebody teaches it, it's going to exist. So
absolutely.
Thank you for us talking about this, but we have 17 minutes. I wanted to get to the next question. So the next question is, now that we're in this quarantine, being single, how has it affected your dating life? And what do you think is going to look like in the future if we have to wear masks? You know, how has this pandemic and quarantine affected your dating life? Isabella?
I'll go. Yeah. Yeah, about that.
Well, you okay.
Uh,
Like you mentioned that you were a stripper, so how is that business happening for you? I mean, being a stripper, that's another whole conversation, and dating is a whole nother conversation with that. Maybe you don't even like dating because you're just sick of men. I don't know, but just a
a little
little
bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit.
for you. Has it affected at all? Has
So
it
I mean, I think quarantine is, for everybody has their own relationship with what has brought up for them in quarantine time, and I could say that many people are sort of like grappling with like maybe some things that the busyness of life was sort of pushing away.
Mhm.
I'd say that I didn't realize that so much of my sexual energy was going into like being a stripper. I mean, that sounds sort of obvious,
Mhm.
but like not having that performance sort of thing, not engaging in that energy the way that I was very often. I'm sort of like, I'm like, oh god, it's gotta get out somehow, like I got some toys in the other day. I'm like, okay, let's like bring up self-care and self-love. I think there's also a huge opportunity for that too,
Yeah.
really investigating like pleasure
Right.
focused embodiment for women, saying yes, I'm gonna honor the thing that makes me so sexy and so wonderful that men and whoever else want to be a part of and have and all that. I think that it's a huge opportunity for women to do that for themselves as well. I think that's super important.
You just brought up a good point. I wonder if the sex toys industry, I
Yeah.
wonder if they've increased. You say, yeah.
Some shit sold out. I went online and like there was a couple things that I was like really interested in getting, like could not buy it. So like women everywhere are like, fucking give it to me. I'll take all of it.
Right. Now, the good thing about that is the self-love and exploring your sexuality and what you like. That's going to help them. Hopefully that'll help them to be, when they get back out into this normal world, to be more selective, because now they're satisfying themselves at home and they realize I don't have to put up with a lot of crap. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. I can love myself. I can satisfy myself. So maybe when they go out, it would just give them more of a sense of security within their sexuality and within their value of who they are.
Yeah, a lot of self-love, a lot of opportunity to practice that right now, I think. And I did a couple social distancing sort of walks with masks, walking around in New York City. And there's something to be said for the very like 18th century, yummy sort of tension that can happen when you can't touch anybody, where you have to be a certain amount of feet away from somebody, and somebody's essence and energy in that way, and connecting to them in that way. So many things with eyes, right? Like really, really getting in touch with those certain things that can sort of be clouded by so much of this, or not having maybe sort of like just rushing into something. If anybody has ever done that, like rushed into having sex with somebody and maybe it was like okay or not as good as you thought. That sort of stuff. You just like don't really have the opportunity to do that. I don't know. There's time to just like chill out, pause, really, really ask yourself, like, how do I really feel just being around this person? If I can't touch them, if I can't kiss them, because that's when a lot of serotonin and dopamine happens too, right? When you start touching people and like, having sex with them, that's when all those hormones like go up all the way too, which can confuse us. Like, do we really like this person, or like, do we just like having sex and needing to be touched? And having discernment for those things, I think, are important, but I think you can have them even more so now. And it's like, if you're going to kiss somebody, like, you better make sure that like that person has gotten an antibody test, or like, I don't have a coronavirus test. And it's almost like, I'm imagining it that it could be almost like assumed monogamy almost, because like with dating, you would like you'd be kissing other people, you know, you'd be hooking up with maybe more than one person. And like, that's what dating is. It's sort of like really understanding, like, who do I like being around with the most? Like, who do I feel like that I really have a genuine connection with? So who the fuck knows, actually, right? I can speculate, actually, and have a lot of opinions about things, but I think it's important to remember that nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
How has it affected you, Micah?
So I am in a relationship, committed relationship, was prior to the quarantine for about a year and a half. And so we kind of just went on this voyage together. It has affected.
Are you in the same household?
Yes. We actually, we were living together beforehand. We actually just moved to Atlanta together a few days ago. So we just got here and we're getting used to this, but we have been under the same roof. And it affected us in a way where it definitely tested our relationship in the sense of just finding, maybe on the opposite terms of what you were speaking on, Isabella, and finding ways to connect. We were connected, but now it's just like stuck together. You can't leave the house. Like, we're just in here, we're trying to figure out things to do. And so it did prompt us to try to find more creative ways to be with each other, because after a while it can be stale. You know, we're waking up, we're in the space, we're walking around the house, we're working out in the house together, we're eating together, we're cooking in the same kitchen, stepping all over each other, using the same bathrooms. It could be a lot, but it definitely, it really tested us in a way of like, do I really like you? Like, do I really want to spend this much time with you? You know, it kind of, whereas previously you might be able to go somewhere else, now you can't. So it definitely tested us in that way, and thankfully we are passing those tests as of now. But it's a huge thing. It's been a huge, and so it made us be more creative. But it also is testing us in ways of trying to find ways to create our space and create our individuality within under being the same roof. So for me, I might be in the kitchen doing my thing. We may not talk for hours in the same space, but it's just because that's our time. He's an artist, so he's over in his art space painting. I'm a cook, so I'm in the kitchen doing my thing, and we just find our time alone. And then we've actually, you know, come together. So it forced us to structure ourselves a little bit better to make sure that we wouldn't burn out, you know, just being together too much and just overloading each other.
Yeah.
So that's been the thing.
And that's great advice. If anybody's watching this video and they're in a relationship, you just gave them some really great advice on how to, you know, have that alone time, even though you can't go anywhere. So that's really, really good. So ladies, I just wanted to thank you again for joining me with Sexy Saturdays. I want to thank you again, but I want you guys to leave me with something personal that has to deal with love, sex, or relationships. Is there anything that you wish you could just tell or say that you wish everybody could hear? Please share it. I always like to leave people with, I love for people to think, laugh, and be happy, but I really love for people to think. So if there's something that you want people to think about, or if there's something that you think about often, what is that thought you would like to leave us with? And anybody chime in whenever you're ready.
Yeah, like I just unmuted myself. Love, sex, or relationships. I would probably say relationships is probably the first thing that jumps to mind for me, and relationships, period. But especially being African American, you know, pushing the Black agenda is just part of what I believe in, and so I feel like that's probably one of the just most disastrous things going on from what I can see. Black relationships, Black people not connecting, kind of on the topic you spoke on. So I would definitely say that when it comes to relationships, but of all kinds, it is important for us in this day and age to build our communication, build our connection, find ways to just relate, empathize. I think we lose and we have lost a lot of that. This quarantine, I feel like, Isabella, you were emphasizing, this quarantine definitely is forcing us to do that and find different ways to connect in that way. And prior to, I feel like it was just a matter of, jumping in and out of whatever you want to do. You find somebody, you like them, you talk to them, next thing you know, they're ghosting you, you're ghosting them. Or, jumping over here and you have sex and now it's old, burned out, now we're moving on to the next thing. And so I feel like just relationships, period, are just falling apart. And just the connections that we need as human beings are falling apart. And without that, just as a society, we can't grow. I think that the relationships test us in ways that we really have to be tested in order to evolve as people. And if we don't find ways to overcome the challenges and persevere through the issues, we won't be able to grow and develop ourselves in all the ways that we need to in our own individual lives. And so I think for me, like probably one of the most prominent things that's always on my mind is just that it's important we have to connect, we have to love, we have to build with each other. Whatever race you are, whatever relationship type you're in, we have to find ways to stay connected and stop bouncing around, stop cutting people off, stop ghosting each other, stop wasting each other's time, because those types of things do turn us off, they build calluses, they do make us bitter, and they make us lose faith in one another. And I think that that's a big part of where we are right now as a society, a country. We've lost or are losing faith with one another. But the quarantine is forcing us to find ways to reconnect, because many of us are sitting in our houses by ourselves, looking at the four walls, trying to figure out what we can have, what we can love, what we can build on. We can't take our relationships for granted anymore. And so that's probably the biggest thing for me.
All right, Isabella?
To a degree, I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I think if people examine their relationships to like physical things, like objects, our relationships to ways that we identify ourselves with, like with clothes, like stuff. I think in some ways that can be a way that we can look at potential partners, especially in the like Tinder and Bumble world, where I am looking at somebody's own curation of themselves, and my ego is identifying or not identifying with somebody else's manifestation of their ego in a very sort of constructed way. And I think it's really important to have discernment with what we're looking at on our phone, because people are not things that we're buying online. I'm not purchasing a dude, I just like the way, just being in my own self, it's like, and it's like, whoa, wait, just like put it away for a second. And so I think because of this, we lose connection here so much. Like we don't know how to have the words sometimes to be able to express what we want to. And I think understanding how to communicate yourself and how to communicate with somebody else in a non-violent way for me is really important. Just sort of coming back to that thing that I talked about, growing up in a violently verbal, abusive household, not engaging with those things for me personally in my own relationships is on the top of the board for me. And also, I would also have to say, when someone is really able to ground into themselves and really have love and appreciation for yourself, anybody else who doesn't see that or ask something of you or project something onto you that isn't who you are, don't fuck with it. Like let it go. I think the more that I honor my strangeness, my sexuality, my sensuality, my artistry, the more I want somebody who can look at me and say, fuck yeah, I'm all about that. And I'm not interested in changing anything about it. I'm interested in growing and partnering with you and creating something. I think when we try and put on all of this stuff just to play a part for a certain period of time to get you to like me is really dangerous and toxic. And we end up hurting ourselves. We end up really hurting ourselves, and we end up hurting the other people around us when we try and be something that we're not, or have so much ego about our bodies in relationship to another person's body and how they dress and all that stuff. And I'm so much more interested in the way that somebody makes me feel inside. Not to say that I like how I am with somebody is super important too. You know, like I'm not saying that too. Like I'm being in a relationship with someone where like you want to fuck them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really important. Like the attraction level that you have to your person and they have for you should be a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
Yes, I always agree with that. That goes back to my statement about, well, I'm nice. But if I'm not attracted to your nice, it's not going to work. And just because you're nice doesn't qualify you, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody likes what they like. That's my whole thing to end this with. I believe you should love whoever you want, as long as you love them because of them, not because of their race or because of their material things. You should love somebody because you love them. Okay, so that's my main thing, and I don't care if it's black, white, or whatever, just as long as you love them. But I think the main thing is a lot of people need to love themselves first. That self-love, have that first, and then I think that can help you to love other people. Because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be good at loving somebody else. If you have nothing but self-hate, that self-hate is not going to open up any kind of love, regardless. And that's my main thing is, it's one thing to make it public that you don't like a certain race, or to make it public that you're against, a woman. To me, it's just very unnecessary. Just like what you like. If that's your preference, that's your preference. You don't need to say why it's your preference. It is what it is, because everybody has the right to like what they like. And just how, you reject somebody, you have to take rejection as well. And that's the main thing that I kind of wanted to leave with people. If you can reject people, then please know that you can be rejected regardless. And I think that's a big thing in our society. A lot of people don't know how to take rejection. They know how to give it, but they don't know how to take it. So thank you, ladies, for joining me for my first Zoom hosting. And a special thanks to you, the viewer. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This was the first surprise for Sexy Saturdays. This week, we talk to the ladies, and next week, we talk to the men. You do not want to miss that conversation. Please hit the notification bell so you do not miss out. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Leave your thoughts. We want to hear what you have to say. As long as you keep it cute, no hate, or it will get deleted. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, because next week, the men will have their say. See you later.